welcome back to the show. I said we'd have this guy on, and we do. Every year, it's becoming like a yearly thing. Every time UConn's in the NCAA tournament, we got to get Tom Moore on the show. Former assistant coach, now the UConn men's basketball general manager. Get some thoughts with him on this UConn team. Can I tell you that this is a true story? I booked you on Saturday night, I believe, or Sunday morning. I booked you for the show. And I said, let's get him on. And then I literally sat there to myself and I go, wait a second. They still have to play Duke on Sunday. And I'm like, if they lose to Duke, what the hell are we going to talk about when I talk to him next week? So, man, I'm really glad you won, because that would have been a hella awkward interview if I had to talk to you today after a loss to Duke. You weren't around. I should have looked this up before I asked, because that's what a true professional would do. You weren't around for the Clemson game, right? You weren't on that staff.
No.
You weren't around.
Jay, I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Okay. Were you coaching?
I was coaching at the Division III level. Yeah,
okay.
At Worcester State College. Shout out to my Lancers. But that was 1990, and I got on staff for the 94-95
okay,
season.
so only a few years. It's only a few years off. But
yep.
I have to ask this question as somebody, and again, you weren't on that staff, but this shot bigger or Tate George's shot bigger?
A lot of discussion and thought about that over the last what's it been, 18 hours now? And most of it generated by me, to whoever will listen. A couple boosters, a couple donors. I actually just got off the phone with Coach Calhoun.
Oh.
And yeah, he and I spoke, and he gave me his perspective.
What'd he say?
And, he felt pretty good that this was like as impactful a shot as he'd ever seen, for the program. And he, Tate had that shot in the Clemson game, and Rip had a huge shot at the end, which sometimes you see on the NCAA highlights against Washington in the Sweet 16, where he took a shot, missed, it got tipped by Jake, it got tipped by Kevin Freeman, tipped again, and then it got tipped back to Rip, and he made a little fall away. But that was in the Sweet 16, and this shot with Braylon is in the Elite Eight, and that came against Washington. No disrespect, but this is against Duke, and I think everybody puts a rivalry with Duke as almost like their Carolina's their rival, but everyone wants the chance to play Duke. And this obviously, I think the fact too, Jason, which it sounds like you watched the game.
Oh, I did.
The fact that it was the last play, in essence, of a 19-point comeback, and almost from half court, and coming off one of the strangest defensive sequences for us. We were a fingernail probably away from having them get the ball over our heads and dribble out the clock. And so I think you put all those things into it, and it's probably the biggest shot in UConn basketball history.
And I mean, a lot of people would look and say, wow, a freshman, Braylon Mullins hits this shot. What an unlikely source for such a moment in UConn history. But to those of you that have been around him all year, maybe you're not as shocked as the rest of the country.
His nickname, Coach Hurley can come up with incredible nicknames for people. Sure. And his nickname for him was the bringer of rain. So he will say oftentimes, especially if Braylon's struggling in a game, and he's had a rough couple weeks shooting the ball in the last month, this month of the season, from three. But ironically, when he plays off his shot fake and someone's running at him and he gets inside the arc, like he'd been very good off 1 and 2 dribble pull-ups. He made a couple yesterday in the game around in the paint area, but he hasn't made as many threes. But I'll tell you, Jason, like internally in the program, that nickname, the bringer of rain, right, is something that we all sort of believe in. And the kid has such a beautiful looking stroke. Like, it's pretty to watch. So he's one of those kids that we've seen him make so many. Like, there's so much belief among the staff and the team. Every time he shoots it, we think it's going in.
Try and describe sort of the way this game went. I mean, you're down 19. You're going to the half. What's the message from Dan Hurley at the half that seemed to obviously resonate with the way this team came out in the second half when, a lot of teams, and I know that's not this team's DNA to just roll over and die, so to speak, but what was it that he said at the half that you thought resonated the most?
Well, what's interesting in my new role this year, as you said, I was an assistant coach for the first 8, I guess this is 7 years that we've been back here. 8 years we've been back. So the first 7 years, I was an assistant coach. So at halftime, coach likes to go in and say a quick something to the team, but then he huddles with his assistant coaches, with all of us in a back separate room, gathers his thoughts, and there's usually 15-minute halftimes. So from the 15-minute mark to the 10-minute mark, he'll gather with us. Then from 10 to like 3 on the clock, he'll talk to the team. With the NCAA, because they need to make more money, the half times are longer, commercials are longer. It's a 20-minute half. So he still likes to come out and talk to the team at the 10-minute mark. Now in my new role, I don't go back with the staff in that separate room as much. I'll hang out in the back of the locker room, and I'll just sort of let the players have the locker room because I really believe like it's their time. We got a couple other grad assistants and some managers and stuff milling around in there, but I like to almost oversee how they're handling their time. If the message gets a little sideways, I'll sort of come in and add my 2 cents and redirect it the way I think the message should be going. But those kids, I'll tell you, Jason, they handled that halftime so well. It was a longer stretch, but they kept talking. They were you could tell there was the belief wasn't shook. And I'll tell you, Duke hit us with a punch at both ends to start that game. And they were very good. And then when Dan came in to talk to them, he was calm and he was poised and he was very pointed at what we needed to do from an X and O standpoint in the second half. And there was really for a team that had been down 19 and was down, I think 15 or 16 at halftime, there wasn't any kind of mopey or finger pointing or heads down. So I was like, hey, we got a shot. I kept saying to them, we like to talk about the media timeouts are 4 minutes. So we say there's 5 wars in the second half. We call them wars. Well, win each war by 3. Think of it, just win each war by 3, and all of a sudden the game pressure will flip to them. So I'm win the first war 9-6, win the next one 8-5, and it's a game.
And that's exactly what happened, Tom.
It is.
It was just a chipping away. There wasn't one dramatic run that suddenly got you guys back in the game. It was just chip away. All the way up until the final shot by Braylon Mullins. We're joined by Tom Moore. He's the general manager of the UConn men's basketball program. We're going to hang on to him for another segment because I want to get some thoughts on how this whole game played out. But also I want to talk to him a bit about UConn basketball and the way it's viewed around the country. We talked about this on yesterday's show, and I'll talk about it some more with Tom Moore as we continue on Sports Going. All right, Tom Moore hanging out with us, general manager of UConn men's basketball. I'm going to ask you something. I'm sure you've been asked this a zillion times in the last 24 hours. What the hell was Dan Hurley doing headbutting the official? Can you explain that? Because my sidekick on the show, Sam, who does the show with me every day, said to me, he could have gotten a technical. I said, but everything's in context. I said, there's got to be a backstory. He has to know the official. There's no way he would go and put his team in jeopardy like that. So please tell me there is a story that makes this headbutt from Dan Hurley that we're now watching on the screen. Tell me that there's something that makes this make sense for me.
There is, and I'm going to pull up a tweet if I can get this. Go
ahead.
If I can get this in time, from Seth Davis.
Yep.
Okay, who's pretty well respected in the industry. And I wouldn't call Seth a particular pro UConn guy either. I think he's middle of the road and when it comes to UConn. But I thought he worded it really well. He said, just for context, the referee is Roger Ayers, who has worked multiple Final Fours. He's known for his toughness and also sense of humor. This struck me as Hurley messing with a buddy more than intimidating a ref. This is after Mullins' shot. So Hurley was obviously not mad at the refs. And that's exactly, I think Seth, it was 1,000% spot on that. The guy, Roger Ayers, we love. He's as good an official as there is in the country. And he's one of these guys, Jason, coming in and out of timeouts. I mean, he's that you can go back and forth with them, and some refs have thin skins, some refs have really thick skins, and some refs are so self-confident in the job that they do that they can go back and forth with head coaches, with tough head coaches, and still feel good about the job they're doing or whatever. Roger's one of those guys. We have him, hold him in the highest esteem. And then again, of course, if you look at the game situation, Dan was so fired up and so excited. Really, all it was I think Roger and I was probably 7 or 8 feet away, but there were a lot of people between us, so I didn't see this happen. But I'm sure Roger was just explaining to him, they have to go over to the timing thing to look to make sure when the ball like cleared the net.
Yeah.
So they had it at 0.3. They
Yeah.
had to go over to check what it was. They moved it to 0.4. So I can assume Dan is just like the adrenaline's flowing so much.
Sure.
He sees Roger and he's really been in a good way, not messing with Roger, but great back and forth with Roger all game. He's just fired up. And he knows Roger's the type of guy that would understand that humor,
Yeah.
And so it was that, the unfortunate side is this: Dan has so many cameras on him all the time on the sideline that I think some people took it like, geez, he put his team in peril by doing that. But
I just figured there was a backstory. That was what I thought, that there had to be a history that he felt comfortable enough that he could go and do that in that situation. That's what I thought. I wasn't looking at it like, oh my God, he's an idiot. I wasn't thinking that at all. Is there something to be said for, in this Final Four? I mean, look, technically you guys are an underdog, I think, by a couple points to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there that will say you're the fourth best team out of the 4 teams here, which is amazing considering you have the only coach who's ever won anything out of the 4 teams that have been here. Is there an advantage to being able to motivate these guys, or is this, hey, it's the Final Four, they don't even need that kind of motivation right now?
Probably a little of both. I think a little of both. And Dan doesn't really play the underdog card much in preparing his team, but I think he'll probably slip it in there at a key moment to those guys to remind them. He won't overdo that aspect of it for sure. But I will say this, like I think like there was a weight on us in 24 in particular when we went to the Final Four, because we had established ourselves as clearly the best team. So it was going to be an upset if we didn't win it. That's heavy. Like that's heavy. That group was so spectacular and so self-assured and firing on so many cylinders by that point that it didn't affect them. The 23 team, I think we were sort of blessed that it wasn't the other 3 seeds, 1 or 2 seeds didn't hit. So I think we got a little bit of a weaker field, and it broke pretty well for us that year. But this year, I mean, I think our guys are pretty confident. Like, our guys have a lot of quiet confidence. When you go through our season and win as many games in the Big East as we did, and then we got knocked back, though, that Marquette game to end the regular season, and then the St. John's Big East tournament, we put a lot into that, and we got beat bad on that night. We've recovered well in the last 2 weeks and done a good job sort of dusting ourselves off and getting back to like feeling good about ourselves. So we have great mojo. I know all the other 3 teams have great mojo going in, but I think we do too.
Illinois, a lot of size. Is that the thing that jumps off the page when you look at them?
Yeah, definitely. We even had 2 assistant coaches from the Big Ten send us their thoughts, and that's what they were talking about last night. On text, they were talking about that. It's strong team, disciplined team, a lot of offensive ability at every position too. And then the kid Wagler was just coming into his own at the time that we played them at Thanksgiving in Madison Square Garden. So he wasn't really what he is now then. So he makes them a little bit different and more threatening for sure.
And not that, Coach Hurley can look ahead. When you look at Michigan and Arizona, is that the best semifinal matchup we may have ever seen?
Oof. Two powerhouses, our 24 team was terrific, but Michigan does. I mean, there were a couple times this year where I watched them and said they sort of look like we did a couple of years ago.
Yep.
They have really a lot of answers. And then Arizona, we lost to them here. We didn't have Taris, but again, they're very good too as well. And that Big 12 is a gauntlet, so they've been through it. To have the record they have and have played consistently as well as they have too, that's going to be a phenomenal game. We're just hopeful that we can win and they can beat each other up. And 36 hours later, I guess, or 48 hours later, we'll be they'll be a little bit worse for the wear from having to play and win a battle on against that caliber of team.
We're going to wrap up the TV side of this with Tom Moore. I'm going to hold him for a few extra questions, which we'll put on the podcast side and on the YouTube side of the show. For the TV purposes, though, we will wrap things up with you. You are always great. You've always said yes whenever I need you to come on. I'm very appreciative of that. For the TV side, best of luck. We're going to hang on to him for the YouTube side as we continue on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. Tom Moore, the general manager of the UConn Huskies men's basketball program. I said this yesterday to start the show, and I was kind of angry about it. I still don't feel like this program gets the respect and the conversation that the Dukes and the North Carolinas and all these blue bloods get. And I'm sitting here saying this to myself. Connecticut really is the center of the basketball universe when it comes to college. Okay? You've got the women's team, which has won 11 national titles since 2000. You guys have won 5. The next closest is 3 in this generation for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why it still feels like people don't get it? That Connecticut, that UConn basketball is it. Like, I don't understand it. Am I misreading it? Maybe you see it differently in your role in traveling the country and stuff like that. Maybe you get more respect and you feel that way. I still feel like the program is disrespected.
I feel that way too. I do. Yeah, I think you're right. I do think there's this club of blue bloods, as you called it, that I think I don't know, it feels like we're an associate member.
Yes.
Of the club, right? I think they're like forced to let us be in this club, but it doesn't feel like when the names roll off the tongues of people, like you said, maybe it's just because for years college basketball fans it's just what they've thought of. They've thought of Duke, Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, and then they just sort of, it trails off. But I hear that too. We do all pick up on that as well. I don't know if it's going to take another 20 years. Like I really do. I asked that question, like how much longer sustained success are we going to need to prove before people will say that? But you catch it in a lot of subtle ways. Now, I'm not saying when we go recruiting and we talk to high school kids and coaches, you got like, there's a healthy respect there. There is. But it does always feel like we have to sort of step to the side when like 4 or 5 other programs come to the table.
Tom, here's what blows my mind.
Yeah.
Krzyzewski leaves, Shire's the head coach. They're trying to run him out of town because of this loss, which is nuts. Hubert Davis goes to a national title game. They're trying to run him out of town because all these places have expectations that you should win a zillion national titles and all that. Only UConn could go from Jim Calhoun. Ollie wins one the next year, and then Dan's won 2, and he's got a chance to win a 3rd. Like that's an embarrassment of riches to be able to have a program that doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
And all these other programs are figuring out how to. Jim Boeheim leaves; it's a train wreck. Now they're going to try. Now they're going to try. The kid that
Jerry
played there,
McNamara,
who I was at that game at the Garden, the 75 overtime game. I was at that game. Like that, it's an embarrassment of riches to be able to have these seamless transitions when you're watching what happens normally. That's the norm, what's going on at North Carolina and Duke, where they're trying. Duke hasn't won a national title in 11 years. You'd think they win one every other year the way they're treated.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. It's amazing. And I've been blessed that I got to work under Coach Calhoun when he was in his prime. Right. You talk about pitchers when they have their fastball and stuff, right? Like he was in his prime. I think when I got there in 94, he had to be 50 50 maybe or something like that, and I got here with Dan when Dan is in his prime. And I mean, when I mean by their prime, it wasn't their first year at the highest level. They had worked high major, they had been, they had won. Their profile was very similar when they came. Coach from Northeastern, Dan from Rhode Island, and you're talking about two giants. Like Dan is now starting to. You're going to have to like reshuffle these conversations of where he's going to rank when he's done on all-time coaches, because I mean, what he's doing right now in this program has like been blessed to have two like just ultimate. Not only are they great coaches, they both have the strength to carry like a program. This isn't a thing where I think the reputation of the program, like, carries them, or the
Right.
infrastructure carries them, or the area of the country carries that, or the tradition or history. It's like they've both been like, Dan has benefited greatly, obviously, from what Coach built. I mean, he's the architect of the thing, but it's those two guys are like it's amazing how strong both of them are in leading the program, and they sometimes both would get criticized for it because it is this like us against the world mentality. And where they get criticized, Jason, is like, they'll go after other teams' fans, they'll go after referees, they'll go after other teams' coaches. Like, I mean, it's like, don't mess with my program, our players. They'll go after the media, right? Like famously, like it's like, don't mess with my team. And it takes, having been a head coach for 10 years at a much smaller level, obviously, the amount of energy it takes day in and day out to be ready to sort of fight for your program is it's really impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What would 3 and 4 years? I mean, where does it put him in the all? If he were to win a third in 4 years, I mean, who was the last to do that? Was it Wooden?
Yeah, yes, yep. So,
and in this generation of college basketball, this iteration of it.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, like, you're going to have to start to look at him along those lines, and put him in that discussion because, and he still has a lot of years left too, as well.
It has a lot of years left. I still wonder if the NBA is going to come calling though.
Yeah,
because if you're going to coach big time college basketball, I still don't think, again, and this now in a GM role.
Yeah,
how far off is it to? And again, I don't know if his shtick, for lack of a better word, I don't know if his shtick works in the NBA, and maybe he knows that and is self-aware enough to know I can't be the same guy there that I am here, so I'll just stay here.
Yeah, I think he's aware of that. But I also think, Jason, too, if and when the time comes where an opportunity presents itself to him that he wants, the thing that people don't realize about Dan is he's so smart. And I wish he would get more credit for his intelligence and his coaching ability as much as he gets like scrutiny for the sideline antics and the intensity, but it all comes with it. I get it, but I just wish people knew him a little more and understood how smart he is, how self-aware he is, and again, what an incredible coach he is. But I do think if and when the time comes and he feels it's time for him to go to the NBA, he'll effectively tweak his coaching personality to be effective in the NBA.
Two quick thoughts on players. Terrace Reed, who has really shown himself to the world in this tournament in a way that I don't know if a lot of people, knew that he was this special player. And frankly, he was the guy that kept you guys in that game on Sunday against Duke. His presence in the post, they had no answer for him whatsoever. How does he translate to you at the next level?
I mean, I'll be honest. The point you just made is 1,000%. I mean, if you could have been on the bench and felt what we felt early in that game, I mean, I don't think Duke could have played better offensively or defensively. The beginning of that game, and the middle part and the end part. I mean, like we said, the game pressure changed a little bit on those kids, right? But they were awesome at the start of the game on both ends of the court. And I'm sitting there, they're the number one rated Ken Palm defensive team in the country. And I'm like, we're watching the game, and I'm like, I see why now. Like, when you're out there against them, this size they have at every position. And John Shire gets them to play really hard too. There's this impression that it's Duke and it's a finesse league and they're a finesse team. Like, no, they were physical and they were playing really hard. The only thing we had going at the start of that game, rightly so, was Terrace offensively. Like, we could not get anything else going offensively with the other four kids and from the perimeter or from those other guys. So we kept going to him and he kept delivering. Like, he sustained us. It felt like we were like paddling on a lifeboat, and he was the lifeboat. Like, there weren't a lot of answers until the game. The rest of the guys settled into the game. I thought the kid Malachi Smith did a great job. Just like off the bench, he had a spark and he made a three, and he picked Caden Boozer up full court, and he picked Foster up and bothered him full court. So I thought he had an impact in the game. But back to your second point about Taras, initially. You hear from NBA scouts all the time that like these classic five men aren't, there's not a place for them unless they're maybe 7'2" or something like that, right?
Yeah, he feels like a 90s five. He feels like a 1990s five to me. And that's, can he shoot? Like, can he shoot from the perimeter? And we've just never seen it because coach doesn't want him out there. Like, I just want to know where the expansion in his game is going to have to be.
Yeah, I think he'll shoot. Like, it's almost like Donovan Clingan a little bit. Like, you see Donovan now having a lot of success in the NBA, and he's shooting 2-3 threes a game. I think Taras will get to that point. Yeah, I mean, but he's just such a great force around the basket at this level right now. That, I mean, he's like you said. You talk about impacting winning. He's like carrying us right now. So he's helping his draft stock immensely. And I think teams will be more open-minded about when you see how strong he is and how naturally nimble he is for his size. You just don't see guys that put together like him.
He's got great footwork. Nimble. He's got great footwork, Tom.
He does. He's I'll tell you a funny story. The new football coach for us, Coach Candle from Toledo, came to watch one of our practices, and I was standing with him talking about the team, and it took him like 5 minutes to go like, give us Reed for an extra season. We'll put him at offensive tackle. I mean, that's how he moves. It's really impressive.
Last one, Alex Karaban. Every championship team needs that glue guy, that sort of leader. Can hit a big shot, is just willing to do whatever it takes. And people won't, everybody will see the Braylon Mullins shot. It's the pass in that position from Karaban, not looking to be the hero and take that shot, but getting it to Mullins in that spot. Just a quick thought on Alex Karaban as he gets set to wrap up his career at Connecticut.
Incredible winner. Incredible culture setter. It sounds like trite now, like to say like, oh, he's a culture setter, but I mean, he's in the gym all the time, and he doesn't drag guys into the gym, but like they're a teammate of his and they see him in the gym all the time, so they're sort of like guilted into making sure they're in the gym. All about basketball, and incredible like champion in the heart of a champion. And it was so fortunate that we were able to land him in recruiting because he's impacted winning as much as anyone's. I mean, again, we reference Wooden, right, in UCLA. Like, you might have to go back to Jabbar and Walton, and those guys as to like who could, if Alex ever wins a third, like what player was around for 3 national championships. So, I mean, he's been an incredible ambassador for UConn too as well. And you referenced that shot, the last shot. Ironically, last night, after all the celebrations at the game and it's the craziness in the locker room and all the stuff and everything, I had a cool moment with Alex and Braylon. Their lockers were like kitty corner next to each other in DC last night. And for a rare moment, I'm in the middle of the locker room, I turn, and both of those guys are like alone, like changing to head out to get to the bus. No one's bothering them. Like, they don't have media in front of the media, had already come in and out. So I go over to two of them. I'm like, did both of you know how much time was left when we got the steal? And both of them, it was cool to have them go back and forth and talk about the situation. They both said, they both said, I glanced at the clock, I saw 5. Braylon like literally said to me, he goes like, I shoveled it to him because he had made the last one. And he goes, I knew he had enough time to get a shot up. And then Alex was like, when I got it, I was going to shoot it, but Boozer was really close to me. And if you look at the film, Boozer is like within a arm's length to like get a good contact on it. And he goes, because I was looking at him pass me the ball, I knew there wasn't anyone in front of him. And I knew I had enough time. So he goes, I kicked it back to him because I thought he would be more wide open. And Braylon then's like, yeah. And then I knew by that point we had made 2 passes. So I only probably had 2 seconds left. So he sort of just stepped into it. But no, that's Alex. I mean, it sounds, again, commonplace to say like all he wants to do is win, but he'll do whatever we need to win. And it's been neat to watch his career evolve, where he came in with that 23 and 24 team. We had older kids that wanted to score and impact, do other things. Then last year as a junior, they're all gone. And he's thrust into this role of like, oh, okay, you're going to be a 20-point scorer and you're going to lead this team. And it was tricky for him, He's not a guy who just like goes and gets buckets for you. Right. He's not a natural leader. So to see him like in these last 2 years develop more of his leadership skills, and then I think we have a better supporting cast around him this year. It's been so neat to watch his career sort of evolve. So
Tom Moore is the general manager of the UConn Huskies men's basketball program. Longtime a coach, assistant there, was a head coach over at Quinnipiac, which is where I met him way back in the day. Appreciate you as always. Best of luck against Illinois on Saturday. I will be watching and screaming my lungs out, and hopefully we've got something to talk about on Monday night with a national championship game against Michigan or Arizona. I will say in my bracket, I had UConn Michigan in the championship game. So
okay.
I would sign up for that, because that would be, I hate to say it, it's kind of a David Goliath thing, because Michigan's just a juggernaut. Like we haven't seen something like that since 24. It is reminiscent of 24 and just how dominant they are. But all the best, my friend. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll be watching you on the bench and behind the bench.
Jason, my pleasure. It's always good to catch up with you, my friend.